like we came from like very, very, very humble beginnings, and it wasn't that long ago that my parents were doing grad school in Canada and we were living off of their scholarship money and just buying whatever was on the discount aisle of supermarkets.
The idea of putting a superhero into the world that my boys can look up to was something that I didn't have as a kid.
It's a dream since I'm a little kid to be a superhero, like every little boy. When we play on the playground, we always played being superheroes. And now I am a superhero, and like you said, I'm seeing that poster everywhere. No words for that. Seriously, I have no words to describe my feelings.
I mean, most of my family, except for my grandma, who doesn't really understand what Marvel movies are, we're just like, wow. They all think it's very cool. They're all big Marvel fans, except my grandma has no idea what Marvel is.
My man,
What's up?
I gotta say right off the top, first, excellent work. I mean, dude, insane. This movie is so freaking amazing. I can't stop singing its praises, but I also have to say, I love your story. I love the fact that, is this your first like major film?
Yeah.
Dude. I mean,
You're telling me.
this dreams can come true. Everybody watching us right now, look what can happen. So when you were cast, did the experience live up to what you expected and what you had hoped it would be? You're a Marvel superhero, my friend.
I mean, it was so much more, like little details that I could never have expected. Like people had reverse engineered the superhero suit and were able to like cosplay, but it was like movie accurate. Like it was really, really good. I remember the first time I saw one, I was like, it took me for a loop because I was like, did you steal that from Marvel Studios? I didn't understand. So I mean, some of these replicas are really, really great, and there's just so many people getting to experiencing with getting to experience it with my friends and my parents too it's just such a priceless thing. So it was so much more than I expected.
It's not just any movie. It's a Marvel movie. um, were you nervous at the very beginning? I mean, comic fans are hardcore. The fans that go see these movies, they're hardcore. Could you feel pressure? Were you a little nervous? You did great, by the way. But I want to know, going back to the beginning.
Yeah, I was very nervous. Every stepping into Marvel Studios, it's like everything is about the fans. They know that they have the most engaged fans on the planet. The Marvel fans also happen to be typically very smart. These are typically the kids who did pretty well in school and are exploring every detail of the movies that come out. Um, I have learned to embrace that as part of the fun. Having an audience that engaged in something that you make as a filmmaker is honestly a dream. And the picking apart of a movie and finding little clues that we have planted, finding little mistakes that we've made, all of that I think is part of the fun, and it's a really cool part of the engagement with an audience.
These movies, the sets, the costumes, the way they're filmed. Describe to me when you walked out and you saw like your first day and you looked around and you saw the set. Describe to me your feelings then.
I mean, I was like, it was crazy. I think the first day on set, one of the first set pieces I saw was our insane bus that was suspended in air on a gimbal. And I just remember looking at that and being like, okay, this is like a whole other level of all this. And, it was just such a cool thing to work with all those world-class stunt team and just so much going on. So really, really cool.
There are so many firsts going on with this cast. Awkwafina, who's been a friend of mine for many years, through the interviews, you as well. First Marvel film. How insane is that? How did you feel when you found out you were cast? Who did you tell first? Tell me about the excitement.
feel like, you know, the comparison is, it was pretty much the same with Creed, you know, like you can't put this into words, what you feel in that moment. You know, it's so incredible. And, you know, this road that I am right now is so incredible. I always wanted to make my steps into the industry, but I never thought, you know, that my first one would be a big role like Drago and Creed. And then my long-term goal was always play a superhero in the MCU, but I always thought that it would be a long-term goal and I would need a couple more movies in order to get a role in that Marvel universe. But here we are, you know, taking mega steps into the industry. It's incredible.
So when you were cast, I want to know who the first person that you told, and what did you say in that conversation? Do you remember?
I do remember. I called my best friend pretty much right away, which is really unfortunate because Kevin Feige had just finished telling me not to tell anyone, and I had just promised him. I had promised him. I was like, I am not gonna let you down. I am totally like, I get it. Nobody will know. And then I, you know, hung up the phone with him, and I was just like, what am I? Am I crazy? What am I not going to tell my best friend? The greatest news that I've ever received in my life. So I called my best friend. I told him. He freaked out. And I was like, look, I can't tell you anything. So this is me not telling you anything. And he was like, oh, okay, what does that mean? I'm like, no, I'm calling you to tell you that I can't tell you anything. And he's like, wait, did you? And like, I loved hearing him in that moment because he was figuring it out. He's just like, and I just kept saying the same thing. I wasn't helping him at all. I was just like, I'm not telling you anything, man. And he's like, yeah, oh, and then he just went nuts. And then we both went nuts together. And then he drove down and we actually FaceTimed my parents together so that we could get the reaction on video.
I love that you always talk about your family. Obviously, Nora from Queens, which we just recently talked about. And again, congratulations on that. But I want to know what your family thinks about you being in a Marvel movie. When you told them what you were doing, what was their response and what did they think?
I mean, most of my family, except for my grandma, who doesn't really understand what Marvel movies are, we're just like, wow. You know, I think they think it's cool, but they're not going to like, they all think it's very cool. They're all big Marvel fans, except my grandma has no idea what Marvel is. I've tried so many times.
I have relatives that don't understand that I'm on television, and I have to explain that to them. I'm like, no, it's TV. It's never mind. I'm just like, sure,
TV.
whatever. It's a picture, and it moves, and we talk, and you can hear us. It's great. When your family found out, because if I'm not mistaken, I saw pictures of you coverage at the premiere. They were with you at the World. I've been to Marvel premieres. They're amazing. They were with you. What is your family thinking about this?
I think they're a little, oh man, I think they're, I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. Like literally when that car turned onto Hollywood Boulevard and we saw like the red carpet, we saw the posters, we saw the fans that were lined up, like pretty sure we all just had this moment where we looked at each other and we were like, I don't know, what is this? Because, you know, like we came from like very, very, very humble beginnings, you know, and it wasn't that long ago that my parents were doing grad school in Canada and we were living off of their scholarship money and just buying whatever was on the discount aisle of supermarkets and you know, my first action figures were 25-cent garage sale action figures, you know? It was just whatever I could cobble together. And some of them just had like different heads attached to bodies that didn't even correspond to them. But that didn't matter because it was, you know, it was my imagination. And that was the most important thing. And it's just such an incredible full circle moment to be playing a character that now has his own action figure, and is about to debut a big movie to the world.
I want to talk about the fight scenes. A lot of action from start to end. Tell me the challenges about filming those particular fight scenes.
I mean, I've never done a single fight scene before in my entire career. So starting off, it was a big challenge. But as an audience member who does love great physical storytelling in movies, I knew what I liked, and I also knew what I didn't like. I typically tune out when action is just explosions and punches and kicks, and there isn't a clear story that's being told. I feel very lucky to have been able to team up with someone like Brad Allen and his incredible stunt team, who a lot of whom came out of Jackie Chan's camp, which are some of by far my favorite fight scenes. And it's not purely because the martial arts is so incredible, which it is, but it's because of the storytelling. And talking to Brad, that's how they were trained. He said, we weren't trained as martial artists in Jackie Chan's camp. We were trained to be filmmakers and storytellers. So every question that he had wasn't about what type of kick do you want? What type of martial arts do you want? It's what are the characters doing? What are they after? What are their relationships are? What are the setups and payoffs? And one of Brad's personal icons is Buster Keaton, who does this better than anybody. And to be able to have sequences in this movie that are clearly influenced by the physical comedy of an icon like Buster Keaton, who is one of my favorites, was really special.
Tell me about, no spoilers, but the costume, specifically your arm.
Yeah, I feel like, the arm was the most difficult part in the whole costume. I mean, the rest of my costume, I feel very comfortable with it. And, the costume department did a really amazing job in making it functional for me, because that's usually the biggest problem if you wear stuff like that, if you wear a uniform like that. It's not functional, and then you have to move and fight. So I was really happy with that. The problem was that, they put a green glove over my hand so they can CGI the arm. The problem with the glove was that it was just a glove, and I, like in Creed and when I'm fighting, I'm swinging for the fences, I'm swinging wildly with those big haymakers, putting all that energy into the punch. And if the glove is not stable, it always, flies away or gets off. We had a lot of, issues to deal with that, but in the end, it worked all out.
Speaking of costumes, tell me the likes, dislikes, as far as your wardrobe was concerned on this particular film.
I mean, I love wearing lime green Dickies, throughout most of the movie. I thought that was super fun. I could run, I could do a split, no one wanted to see that, but and then I loved, obviously, my second outfit. I loved all the outfits. Kim Barrett, our lovely costume designer, did a great job. And I wear those lime green pants anytime.
I read in an interview that you did that you said you wanted to give your son a superhero to look up to. Expand on that and tell me what you're saying. I mean, aside from the obvious, but from the heart.
I mean, I'm a new father. My son is a little over 3 years old now, and I actually, my wife and I had a second son that was born 2 months into shooting this movie. So the idea of putting a superhero into the world that my boys can look up to was something that I didn't have as a kid. A superhero that reflected the experience that I had, and someone that I could realistically choose to dress up like on Halloween. But it really was a guiding light of what I wanted to instill in my kids. And I think what Shang-Chi represents isn't this pie in the sky, fluffy, perfect superhero. This is a kid who is learning to deal with his own pain that he's gone through, and the process of looking at himself and accepting every part of himself is the secret to him finally stepping into his shoes. And that's a theme that I hope for myself, and I also hope for my kids.
You're driving down the road, and I've been driving around Houston looking at all the amazing posters for Shang-Chi. What do you feel when you see something like that? You're big part of this movie. What do you feel when you see all the posters and the signage and the excitement that is this movie?
I mean, I think it's kind of an out of body experience, like kind of literally, because it's like a picture of you outside of your body. My initial instinct sometimes, and it's very cool. I just want to like run up to them and be like, hey, which I've done that before. And people they were not impressed because they were just like, okay. So, but yeah, very cool to see those signs.
I remember, you know, when we did Creed and we started the whole press tour, and I was seeing all those movie posters around, and I don't know, I feel like just because, you know, it's a dream since I'm a little kid to be a superhero, like every little boy, you know, when we play on the playground, we always played being superheroes. And now I am a superhero, you know, and like you said, I'm seeing that poster everywhere. No words for that. Seriously, I have no words to describe my feelings, but this is just, you know, those moments is exactly what I live for and what I work for, you know, because those are the moments when I see the poster somewhere, I realize that all the sacrifice, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the determination, all the injuries, the sleepless nights, it was all worth it for exactly that moment. So I will always, this, like I said before, those are the moments why I'm doing all this, for exactly those little moments.